In this video, we're going to be learning about how to add and subtract unrelated fractions. So let's get straight into it. Unrelated fractions is obviously the opposite of what we call related fractions. We can also call related fractions as like fractions. So we should hopefully already know how to add and subtract related or like or similar fractions. So here's an example. If we had maybe 1/2 plus 1/2, the denominators are the same, denominator meaning the bottom number. When they're the same, we can then add the tops. So then we have 1 plus 1 is 2. The bottom number stays the same, so my answer is 2. And my answer is 2 over 2. And to simplify, we know the top, and if the top number is the same as the bottom number, it's equal to a whole. If I made it slightly more tricky and say, let's say it's 1/2 plus 1/4, then we say, well, I know I can make 2 into 4. We need to find an equivalent fraction because you can't add or subtract them if they're not the same number. So if I did 2 times 2, it'll be 4, and then I can solve it. We also know that whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top, otherwise it wouldn't be equivalent. Equivalent meaning that they're worth the same. So 1 times 2 is 2, and then 2 times 2 is 4. So I've just got, instead of 1/2, it's actually 2/4, and it's worth the exact same. So if we then go 2 plus 1 is 3 on the top, and then we keep the bottom number the same, my answer is 3/4, and I can't simplify it any further. These are the smallest it can get. That is how we do related. Unrelated, or we call them unlike fractions, or they're not similar, is when we have the denominators and I can't make 3 into 4 and I can't make 4 into 3. I can't times it, can't divide it, stuck. So we need to find a brand new number that they both can make it into. We call those multiples. So I'm need to finding a common multiple. I'm going to show you 2 methods. One is called finding the lowest common multiple, and another one's just finding any common multiple. So I'm going to show you how to find any multiple. So let's do this little trick here. 3 times 4 and 4 times 3. How do you get those numbers? Well, I'm just multiplying this number by that number, and I'm multiplying this number by that number. Just swap them around. Whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So if that was 3, that has to be 3. If this is 4, this has to be 4. So then when we do it, we've got 1 times 4 on the bottom is 4, 3 times 4 on the bottom is 12, and then 3 times 2 is 6, 4 times 3 is 12. Great. These are what we call equivalent fractions. 4/12 is the same as 1/3. And if you don't believe me, well, you can see it visually. We got 1/3 here as a box, and we've got 2/4 here in this box. So we've got 1/3 plus 2/4. We just worked out that 1/3 is actually the same as 4/12, and we know that 2/4 is the same as 6/12. So let's see if that's true. I've got 1 blue colored out of 3 total boxes. That's 1/3. Great. Let's make it 12 boxes instead. So let's put these lines in here, and now I've got 12. If you don't believe me, pause and count. I should have 4 colored in. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can actually see that the 4 red boxes are the same amount. It's worth the same as 1 blue box if it's cut into thirds rather than 12ths. With our example over here, we can make it into 12ths. So instead of 2 out of 4, I've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rectangles colored in out of 12, and it's the same as the 2 out of 4. So the green and the red are identical. If it was a chocolate bar, I'm either getting 6 little pieces of chocolate or I'm getting 2 big strips. They're worth the same amount of chocolate. We call that equivalent fractions. Now we've made them equivalent and the bottom numbers are the same, we can add the tops. So 4 plus 6 is 10, 12 and 12 on the bottom, we keep it as the same number. And then last step is to simplify. When we're simplifying, remember we have the term HCF, highest common factor. meaning the biggest thing they share, S, common meaning they share it, and factor meaning what can we divide them both by that will be the same number. So the same number that can work is 2. 2 is the biggest number that can fit into 10 and 12. I couldn't pick 5 because 5 goes into 10, but 5 doesn't go into 12. So I need to find a common number, and it's going to be the biggest one I can find. So 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 2 divided into 12, or 12 divided by 2, is 6. My answer is 5/6. Sorry, I'm sure my face is in the way there. 5/6. So that's one way. I'll show you that one more time. And remember, this method I'm showing you right now is what you'd use if you're not very good at times tables. Then I'll show you the proper method of finding the lowest common multiple. So we're going to multiply 4 by 6 and then 6 by 4. So 4 times 6 and 6 times 4. And that's to find an equivalent fraction. Whatever you do to the bottom, do to the top. So we've got 6 times 1 equals 6. 4 times 6, if you're not sure, you can just skip count by 4. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. And then I've got 3 times 4 is 12, and 6 times 4, if you count by 6s, count up 4 times, 6, 12, 18, 24. The bottom numbers are the same. Now I can add the tops. So 6 plus 12 is 18. The bottom number stays the same. And then final step is to simplify. What's the highest common factor in 18 and 24? I believe it is 6. Yeah, 6 goes into 6, 12. Yeah, I think 6 is the biggest number. I could divide it by 2 and then divide it by 2 again, and more actually maybe divide it by 2, then divide by 3. Anyway, it would work, but doing the highest number rather than just any number will be the way to do it quickest. So 6 goes into 18, 6, 12, 18, 3 times. And 24 goes into 6, 6, 12, 18, 24, 4 times. So my answer is 3/4. Let's do the exact same question. So 1/4 plus 3/6. But this time we're doing it the proper way. You should do it. We call it using the lowest common multiple. I've got a times table chart here of my 4 times tables and my 6 times tables. Remember, multiple just means multiplication, the times tables. So we want to find the lowest common, the lowest one they share. Let's look at the ones they share first. So I've got 12. I've got 24. Just as we had in the previous question, we used 24 as a common multiple. And 36 we have shared. And 48 I'm seeing. And there'll be more, I'm sure. I don't know, 60 might go in. Probably, yeah, I think 60 goes into it, and 4 times something bigger, maybe 15 goes into 60. So these are some ones that we have common. It will be infinite. Like I can find ones in the thousands if I really wanted to, but I want to find the lowest. So what's the lowest? It's 12. So what times 4 equals 12? Well, it's 3. So I'm going to need to do 4 times 3 because I want, if I'm rewriting it, I want the bottom number to be 12 because that's the lowest common multiple. Now if I do the 6 times table, what times what equals 12? Well, if I look at my times tables, 6 times 2 is 12. So times 2 will get it to 12. Great. Whatever you do to the bottom, do to the top. So 1 times 3 is 3, and 3 times 2 is 6. So we can see that 3/12 and 6/12 is the lowest equivalent fraction we can find other than 1/4 and 3/6. It's the lowest number. If we wanted to find a higher one, we could times it by, if we really wanted to, we could do 4 times 9, and we could do, to get to be 36, and we do 6 times 6 to 36. So they could both have 36 on the bottom here, and it'd be a much bigger numerator, and it would work, but then we have to simplify lots. So we saw with this one, 24 worked, but we had to then simplify it. You'll see here, because we found the lowest one, we shouldn't need to simplify. So 3 plus 6 is 9. Oh, sorry, we do need to simplify for this one. Sometimes you still need to simplify, but it will be a much easier simplify. Then we're going to find the highest common factor, and that is 3. 3 goes into both 9 and 12, so just divide by 3 is 3, divide by 3 is 4. My answer is 3/4. Final thing I'm going to show you, how to subtract. We're going to unrelated fractions. We're going to need to regroup in this example. So remember, when you're subtracting fractions, you do the whole numbers first. So 2 take away 1 to start with, which equals 1. So I've just gotten rid of these, right? So now I've just got, because my 1 is over here, yeah, which technically is right here. So I've got 7/10 take away 3/4, or really it's 1 7/10 take away 3/4, because I've already subtracted 1, right? So we've got the denominators. We need to find what's the lowest common multiple, the LCM. What goes into 10 and 4? Well, if I wanted to be sneaky, I could just times it by the opposite. But then I'm going to have to do a lot of simplifying. Sorry, that should be 10. I don't want to do that. I want to find the lowest number, not just any number. So I know that 4 goes into 20, and I know that 10 goes into 20. So if we can make them into 20s, that would make life easier, hey? So I'm going to go 10 times 2 and 4 times 5. So whatever you do at the bottom, do to the top. 2 times 7 is 14, and I've got 3 times 5 is 15. So I've got 1 and 14/20 take away 15/20. Well, they're both, the bottom numbers are the same, the denominators, so now I just have to subtract the numerators, and we found a problem. I can't do 14 take away 15 because I'm going to be -1. I can't have -1, so I'm going to have to regroup. I can actually get this whole number and I can regroup it. What's one whole worth? Well, it will be worth 20 out of 20. So if I crossed out 1 and made it 0, I've taken away one of them, I can now add 20 to this side. That's because one whole is worth this number on top of itself. Yeah, whenever the top number is the same as the bottom number, it's equal to 1, like I said at the start of the lesson. So if it was 5 over 5, it's equal to 1. If it's 20 over 20, it's equal to 1. So if I had 1, I can change it to, it's equal to 20 over 20, and I can use that 20 over here to regroup. Just sort of like when I'm adding or subtracting vertically, and I can regroup and add a 1 to the number to make it, instead of 4, it could be 14, things like that. So if we do 14 plus 20, I've now got 34, and now I can do 34 take away 15, can't I? So 34 take 15 will give us 19. So my answer is 19 over 20, because I had a 0 in my whole number section. So my answer is 19 over 20, and that is it. So how do we add or subtract unrelated fractions? You need to find the lowest common multiple. If you can't do that, you can just multiply it by each other, but then it just means you have to simplify more. And when you're subtracting fractions, sometimes if it's not big enough, you need to regroup to make that number bigger, and you do that by regrouping the whole number. Hopefully you've learned something new. All the best.